Afternoon, everybody, and welcome to session 6. Same shape as the last few. Demos you watch, you replicate at your own pace during the week, and anything that breaks comes back to me by email, and we look at it next time. Nothing to build live in the room. I'm still remembering that lesson from a few weeks ago. For anyone catching up on the recording, you're not behind. Nobody's building live. The recording is the session, and replicate when you get to it. Agenda for today is a quick vocab check to open, followed by some questions from the past week. I'll set expectations of where everyone should be right now, given we are 6 weeks in, and then on to the meat of today's session, focused on connectors, which will have 3 distinct lenses. Lens 1, consume, then lens 2, which is reach, followed by lens 3, which is provide. As usual, we'll wrap up and give homework for next week. Before we start, a quick vocabulary check. Like last week, I'm going to read a few words for each one. Hands up if you'd be happy explaining it to a friend who hasn't done this course. No follow-up, no shame, just so I know what to write up afterwards. 2 from before, 3 for today. From last week, what does master prompt do? Okay, plenty of nods, that's good. Roger, you asked if I could recap it anyway, just to make sure. So master prompt, if you remember, was a custom / command that we added where your agent is going to read through the last few session scripts and it's going to capture anything that might have gone wrong or anything new that it thinks it might need to be updated in your user.md, your soul.md, your goals.md, and the claw.md file. So it's looking at what you've been working on, learning from that, and updating itself so it's always fully up to date with the latest in terms of your preferences and the way in which you like to operate. Richard, you asked how frequently we should use it, once a week or every time. So I would say not every time. I would just leave it for when you've got a few days sessions and then run it over those last few days sessions. Another question now, which is I've started in the last couple of days taking notes in Obsidian, categorizing and creating a note for when I'm in a meeting. I get my AI to do transcripts and paste it into those meeting notes. Will Master Prompt automatically review those notes? So the answer is no, not automatically, but there is nothing stopping you to update that master prompt so that it's got that. That is totally within your control because basically it's just a prompt behind that custom / command which can be amended at any time. So I'd encourage you to do that and update it for your particular preferences. Okay, next word, this time from session 2. What is an agent? Okay, Roger, your answer is it's computer intelligence that does stuff for you based on what you ask it to, based on the knowledge of what it knows about you. Yes, that is a good description. So you remember when we talked about agents in session 2, we said it's a large language model running in a loop to achieve a goal. And as part of running in that loop, it's also got access to tools which will allow it to reach out and do additional things in order to reach that goal. And that's different from a chatbot, which is just basically this single request response mechanism. So I just wanted to make sure that we recap the vocab again now that you've been using your agent for a few weeks. And now for today's words, connector and MCP server. So Roger, your answer is connecting to all of your other apps and things like your Gmail and Granola. Yeah, that is correct. Remember when we looked at the Claude desktop, we had those connectors which you could toggle on and toggle off to connect to your email and connect to other tools? Well, that's exactly what a connector is. And today we're going to take that to a whole new level because now that you've got your agent in the terminal, you have access to a much broader range of connectors or APIs than just the ones provided on the Claude app itself, which is of course why I wanted you to set up your agent in the terminal in the first place. And now MCP server, you'll recall I mentioned this in an earlier session. It's just a standard mechanism for agents to connect to external services. When you toggle that switch in the Claude app for a connector, in the background it's more than likely starting up an MCP server, and that enables you to communicate with that service. Later today, you'll see me running commands to set up an MCP server and showing you in a little bit more detail than the simple toggle switch that you've seen so far. Okay, so that's a good vocab check. So what today is, you can see this slide that I've got up on the screen. Phase 1 gave your agent an identity. Phase 2 gave it a memory. Today, phase 3, it connects to the outside world. And here's the mindset for this afternoon, because it's the important bit. You do not need to become an expert in authentication. You may see the term OAuth being used by your agent, tokens and transports and all the plumbing. Your agent handles that. What you need to know is what you're actually trying to achieve and how to direct your agent to make it happen. Think of it this way. You've effectively hired your first employee. The skill now isn't doing the work yourself, it's giving good direction. And that gets harder as you do more, not easier. Briefing one assistant, manageable. 1,000 of them only works if you built the habit of clear instructions and somewhere sensible and structured for their work to be stored. I'm going to emphasize the structure point because when your agent comes back and gives you information, it needs to know where to store it in a way that matches your way of working. 3 things today in what I'm calling the different lenses. 1, your agent reaching out to services. 2, you reaching your agent from your phone. And 3, the one I most want you thinking about all week, you putting your own data out there for other people's agents. But first, as we did last week, we start with where you all got to with the homework. Hopefully everybody got to phase 2 and merged in the additional capabilities, the memory hooks and the master prompt. And if everyone hit the wall where the new files tried to land in the wrong vault folder, the fix is in last week's session 5 notes on the starter repo. The merge recipe handles the rename for you. And hopefully everyone managed to run master prompt and see what learnings it proposed. Just a reminder that you don't need to accept everything your agent proposed. It's okay to push back on some of it. Sometimes it tries to be a little bit too accommodating. A couple of things came up with individuals this week that I think are worth sharing. Polly had a particular problem. He's got piles of client documents, Word, PDF, sitting in his OneDrive. Now, of course, all neatly organized thanks to his Polly COO agent. So we had Claude mirror that same folder structure inside his vault. The vault holds the markdown, his agent's notes, the conversations, the working stuff, and the actual deliverables, the Word and PDF files that go to clients, stay in the matching folder on his OneDrive. So the question is, why does that matter? The answer is because you really don't want to be committing big Word and PDF binaries into Git. That's not what it's for. Markdown is in the vault and the client-heavy files stay out. And keep the structure the same in both places so you and your agent always know where things live. The way I like to think about it is the client files section is your filing cabinet, whereas your vault is where you speak to your agent. In our new world, we don't have to go and look in the cabinet ourselves. Our agent does that and simply tells us the exact status of what's in it and the critical updates that we need to know. That's why we hired him in the first place, so we don't have to dig around in the grubby filing cabinet. We just get the polished summary view from our agent. Hold that idea about structure because we're going to come back to it later on in today's session. Tiffany had another good one. She needed to connect her agent to GitHub repository, which meant setting up an SSH key and adding it to GitHub. We got it done together, but it surfaced something I should have clarified a few weeks ago. And it'll help all of you knowing when you're typing into the terminal versus typing to your agent. They look similar, the same window-ish, but they're different. Some things are setup commands you type into the terminal. Other things are just talking to your agent. To open a terminal, I'm going to show you now. This is a terminal that I have here. If you want to open a new one, of course, you go to Shell, New Window with Profile Basic, and that opens a terminal just like we've got over here. Your agent, on the other hand, if I open another terminal here, an agent is when I type Claude. What I'm doing here is I'm actually starting a software program from the terminal. They look very similar, but they're not the same. This is a software program running Claude, and this is an actual terminal session. So hopefully that's clear to everybody, the distinction between an agent session and a terminal session. So Tiffany should have been pasting her terminal commands into this terminal session rather than into the agent session. Now just one small nuance is that your agent can sometimes tell you that it's possible to run shell commands within a Claude session. And that's where you have this exclamation mark in front of the terminal command. And what that does is it enables the terminal command to be run from within an agent session. Let me just show you exactly by giving a particular prompt to my agent. I'm going to tell him, can you explain how the exclamation mark is used to run shell commands from here with one simple example? The exclamation prefix lets you run a shell command directly from the prompt. Its output drops straight into our conversations, so I can see it too. Just type exclamation mark followed by the command. For example, exclamation get status. That runs git status and shows the result right here without me having to call any tools. Handy for things you'd rather run yourself, like an interactive login or any command whose output you want us both to have to hand. So that's quite a useful little trick that your agent knows how to do. And now the question a few of you have been asking since we covered parts of it in session 4. Can I use this when I'm out and about on my phone? Last week I showed you the remote control command for a session. Today you get the proper answer, an actual bot that you text, and that's the second of our 3 lenses. Now a quick recap on where I hope you are. I reached out to most people during the week, and I think most of you are in a good place. You have your agent set up and working with identity files loaded. You have 3 hooks working, a memory system up and running with both daily sessions as well as the memory.md file file being loaded. Everyone should be using the agent in the terminal as your daily driver of AI sessions, with multiple sessions active depending on how many tasks you currently have on the go at any one point in time. Right. The whole afternoon today is one idea: connecting your agent to external services. And it is, I believe, leading to a genuine paradigm shift in how the internet works. Maxim asked a brilliant question last week. Does all this memory get expensive? Does the agent have to read everything every single time? And the answer is no. It reaches for what it needs when it needs it, and then it lets go. Reach, don't hoard. And that's exactly how connecting to the outside world works too. Your agent doesn't swallow your whole inbox. It reaches in, grabs what's relevant, and lets go. Maxim also made a point on LinkedIn this week. I want to borrow. Some things are great for AI and some aren't. You shouldn't build something just because you can, especially if time is tight. Understand what actually adds value. Keep that idea. It matters when we get into the third lens. MCP. So back in session 2, I said tools are the agent's hands. MCP, or Model Context Protocol, is just a standard way of handing a service to an agent. So the agent gets a consistent set of tools. Read these emails, list these events, look up this thing, without having to hand wire every single one. The analogy I'd use: MCP is the USB-C of AI tools. One shape, lots of devices. Your email, your calendar, your bank, a company database. If it's got an MCP server, your agent plugs in the same way every single time. Now, a useful thing to know: if you use Claude on the web, Claude.ai, there are built-in connectors you switch on. Email, calendar, so on. And the good news is those are the same connectors that work here in Claude Code too. You just switch them on with a quick login. So for your main email and calendar, it really is that easy. Where it gets a little bit more involved, and we'll see this in a minute, is when you want a second account on the go at the same time, or you want to connect something that hasn't got a ready-made connector. There's a bit of one-time setup, but your everyday stuff is really just one login. The bigger shift. And here's the thing: the three lenses add up to. For 30 years, the way we've used the internet is a human opens a web page and reads it. That's changing. Increasingly, it's your agent that goes and fetches things for you. And it doesn't read web pages, it talks to services. So the world is quietly growing what I call a second face. Alongside here's my website for people, there's here's my MCP server for agents. Let me make that a bit concrete because it sounds abstract until you see it. There's this guy called Daniel Miessler who has a YouTube channel that I watch quite frequently. And honestly, a lot of the thinking behind this whole way of working traces back to him. And he tells this story. A design tool that he likes, called Excalibur, brought out this clever new AI feature. Open the app, type what you want, and it builds the thing for you. And his reaction was, hold on, do you honestly think I'm going to open your app and type into it? Give me an MCP, give me an API, so my agent does it for me. If I have to open the app, you've already lost me. And that's the whole shift summarized. The job was build a nice website, get humans to come and click on the buttons. The new job is expose what you do so the human's agent can reach it. Because the human isn't coming to your front door anymore. They've sent their agent. Even getting found on the internet flips. You used to tune your website so it ranked on Google for people. Now you're trying to be the thing that their agent picks. I need a new mattress. Isn't typed into Google anymore. It's said to your agent, who already knows that you like a firm one and your wife likes it soft. And off it goes and finds it. Because of course your agent has your user.md file, which has all the information about you and your preferences. I think we're all on the cutting edge, and not as many people have figured out that this is the way that the whole internet is going to go, with agent-to-agent interactions. Now here's a question from Mandy, who's asking, can your agent purchase the mattress on your behalf and organize delivery? Good question. So yes, you can, if you give it this capability. Now, of course, people are a little bit hesitant giving agents access to bank accounts and pay for things, but it is good that you raise this. Because the way some people are thinking about it is that they're giving the agent the capability to buy things, but they're giving them very explicit rules about when to make purchases, and they're giving it a budget. So it's like you're given access to a certain amount of money, and here's a budget, here's how you're allowed to spend it. Almost like for your children, where you tell them, here's your budget with your pocket money, and you teach them how to spend wisely. So that's kind of the way to think about it. As I mentioned today, it's about looking at these three different lenses. Lens 1, consume, your agent reaches out to services. Lens 2, reach, you reach your agent from anywhere. And lens 3, provide, you offer your own data to other people's agents. We're going to look at all three today, and the third one is the one that I want you to be thinking about all week. So our first lens is the consume lens, where your agent reaches out to get information externally. The real value proposition here is that the connectors worth having are the services you already live in on a day-to-day basis on your computer. Typically, that's going to be your email and your calendar. But be warned, we're still very early adopters and there is still friction in the setup. So the first word I need you to understand here is server. But the word server is considered a highly technical IT term, so I just need you to understand that a server is just a computer somewhere on the internet that answers requests. To be precise and use the correct terminology, it serves a request. A normal web server answers your browser and hands back a page for you to read. An MCP server answers your agent and hands back data the agent can use. Connecting your agent to one is a single command. We'll run one for real later. First, the connector everyone wants, your email and your calendar. I'm conscious that many of you have already set this up for yourselves, or at least your agent has, but it's worthwhile stepping through the process slowly so that you understand the pattern. As this pattern can be replicated for other connectors you have yet to set up, as mentioned previously, I don't want your agent to become a black box that you don't understand. If it goes wrong, I want you to have an informed conversation with your agent about the possible causes and suggested fixes. Let me go to Bob, and I have a session for Bob open here, and I'm going to ask Bob a question. Can you check my inbox to see if there's any update on the Copenhagen Marathon and what runs I have planned in my calendar this week, making the necessary project updates? Now let me search the inbox, and now he's accessing my Gmail, so you can say calling Gmail, Google Calendar. The lottery email arrived 3rd of June. Let me read it with full content to see the actual update. So now it's going to that specific email. As I mentioned, it only reaches in for the information it needs. It's not swallowing my whole inbox. Okay, so that's all done. Copenhagen Marathon inbox update. The lottery is closed. The organizations are now drawing the 35,000 entrants and emailing selected runners over the next 2 weeks. Runs on the calendar this week. Only one actually scheduled is Park Run, Saturday 13th of June, your normal time. And updates made. It's made an update to my Copenhagen Marathon project file. Now, for my next command, I'm going to tell my agent, draft an email to Roger in my voice about the marathon update. So now it's going to again access my email, except this time it's going to draft an email rather than just read emails. Okay, and now it's got a suggested email to Roger. And Roger, given you'll drive halfway across Somerset to bag a park run, I figured you're the right person to inflict this on. So that's a great email. It really understands enough context from what we've been speaking about, and it suggested that email. Okay, so now I'm going to tell him, save this in my drafts. Now notice what he did and what he didn't. He drafted it. He didn't send it. Reading my inbox is one permission. Sending email as me is completely different one. You stay in control. Okay, save to my Gmail drafts. And if I come to my email and look in my drafts, I can see the drafted email as expected, and I can then send this to Roger once I'm happy with the email. And do you remember Poli's structure point from earlier? This is where it comes in. When your agent reaches out and brings things back, emails, replies, bits of research, it has to put them somewhere where you'll actually find them and act on them. Place that draft under my Copenhagen Marathon project. A connected agent with nowhere to file things is just going to create an even bigger mess. An agent that knows your filing system, however, is going to make even people like Poli feel organized. Now there's a question from Tiffany who's saying, I'm using it to draft emails and I'm finding that when I go in and make any sort of change, it's putting it in a different font and there's a lot of broken lines and things like that. Is there some way for me to get it to stick to my style and email formatting preferences? It's becoming more time consuming than if I just drafted it myself. So Tiffany, my suggestion would be that you have a dedicated markdown document, which is your writing style or email formatting document, which states exactly how you want those emails structured, formatted, and laid out. Then separately, put something in your sol.md file, which gives particular instructions to your agent to reference the separate document when writing an email and to follow the instructions accurately. The reason you have these separate is because the stuff that you're working on all the time is not always an email. So you don't want to load that separate email instructions document every single time into the context window. But the sol.md is loaded into context every time. And if there's a one-liner there saying, if the task that you're working on is an email, make sure you go and load that email document into context so it's very clear that this is how I like to write my emails, and that's a far more efficient way of getting that document into context only when it's needed. Now, here's the thing. Connecting your main email and calendar is genuinely easy. There's a built-in connector. You log in once and you're away. No wrestling a settings screen. So where's this friction that I warned about earlier? It shows up whenever a connector has to prove that it's really you because it's reaching into something private, or when the thing that you want hasn't got a ready-made connector yet. And that's a little bit of setup isn't a flaw. It's the point. Anything reaching into your private life should make you prove who you are first. The things that you can plug into with no setup at all are typically public data, not your life data. A question a few of you will have now. I know Tiffy has come across this exact issue herself. I've already got Gmail connected in Claude.ai. Isn't it set up? Yes, and that's the easy bit. The same connector works right here in Claude Code. One login and your main account's done. The only catch is it holds one Google account at a time. So if you want a second account as well, like I do, you either flip the connector between them when you need to, or stand up a small second server so both inboxes live together. That second one is where the bit of setup comes in. Both of them are written up step by step in the session notes, which will be posted on the AI Starter repo as the previous session notes were, and I'm going to show you step by step process right now. So I've brought across my Bob Vault, and it's got the instructions included in the AI Starter repo for adding a second Gmail and Google Calendar account. So Tiffany, if you follow these instructions, you'll be able to get your second email account set up. There's a few different parts. I'm just going to tell you at a high level what those parts are. First of all, in part A, you'll need to create an authorization credentials. Remember I used this word OAuth earlier? It has 4 sub-steps. First, you go to a Google Cloud admin account, console.cloud.google.com, and sign in with your username and password and create a project if you haven't got one already. Second, you've got to enable the Gmail API, which is the application programming interface which Google uses for connecting with their Gmail servers. They have a very large number of APIs, so you have to search for the Gmail one and then enable it. Third, you've got to configure the consent screen. There's a wizard that walks you through this if it's your first time. This is the process to provide your app a name and put in your email as the user support person, as well as adding yourself, your email, as a test user. And this is an important step because if you don't add a test user, it won't work. In the 4th step, you've got to create this OAuth client, which is where you hand out the keys to specific users who are going to connect to your account. In our case, for our agent. At this point, it's going to ask you to download a JSON file to your computer with a client ID and a client secret, which will go into your computer's downloads folder. And that's all the stuff that your agent can't do for you. You need to go and do that yourself on the Google Cloud Console web page. Once you've done that, you're all set up on Google, you've got an authentication. And once you've got those credentials and downloaded them, this is where you move to part B, where you authenticate your MCP server using these credentials. You could do it yourself manually, and in this guide, I've got the manual command steps right here. And coming back to my point earlier, these are terminal commands and not commands that you type into your agent session. But in fact, I didn't go to my terminal and type these commands myself. What I did was I went to my agent and said, I've downloaded the JSON file. Go and have a look in my downloads folder. You can go do all of the steps for me. So this is consistent with my comments from earlier, where you don't necessarily need to know all the plumbing and the steps to do the terminal commands. So my agent then went and created this directory and stored the authorization keys on my computer. It ran this authorization flow and opened up a browser screen where I was asked to manually accept that this server would have access to my email account to perform certain functions. So that's in this step, run the one-time OAuth flow. The final step is part C, where you register your MCP server with Claude Code. And this can be done manually if you want to be fiddling around with the JSON files, or more likely, you will just ask your agent to do it for you, after which it adds a few lines to this .claude.json file to identify and register the specific MCP server being used. So a few steps, but not particularly difficult, a little bit of friction involved. There's a second one which I need to set up for my calendar, which follows the exact same sequence, except part A is even easier as you already have the project and credentials. So all you need to do is enable the Google Calendar API in the same way as you did for the Gmail one earlier. Okay, so now let's test that on Bob. And I'm going to ask Bob, what was the last email I received in my work email inbox? Calling Gmail work, so you can see this time it knows that it needs to call my second Gmail account, which is my work one. It's a security alert from Google. That is correct because that security alert was exactly the security alert the email sent to me when I was setting up this MCP server, and Google was verifying that I was comfortable with setting up that MCP server. Now, moving on to different connectors. Your agent can already search the web a little. That's built in, no setup. But a lot of sites block automated visitors. So the built-in search hits walls and comes back thin. When it really matters, there are specialist search connectors, and Firecrawl is a well-known one which I use. That gets through properly and hands back a cleaner and more comprehensive set of results. And the setup is not that difficult. You sign up, you get a key, you connect to it, and you use it. So if I turn to this web page, here's firecrawl.dev, and you simply go and create an account. And there is a free version, which which allows you to get a certain amount of activity for free before you have to pay. And Richard, you asked about Google Keep. The honest answer, on a personal Google account, there's no clean way at all. The proper Keep interface is locked to corporate accounts only. Now, you're on a corporate workspace, so you've actually got path. The rest of the people with regular accounts don't, though you may need your IT person to switch it on for you if you can't do it yourself. But once you've done that, it's likely just a matter of enabling that API in the same way as we did for Gmail and for Google Calendar. Now, for Lens 2, the other direction, you on your phone, away from your computer, texting your agent, and it works and it replies. So how do you do it? There are a few ways of setting this up depending on what you're after. The first you've already seen, the remote control command, and that just steers a session you've already got open on your computer from the Claude app. Nothing extra to set up. The one I'd recommend most of you set up is a Telegram bot, which is what I'll be walking you through shortly. Claude Code has it natively built in now through something they call channels. You get a free token from Telegram in about 2 minutes, plug it in, and you're texting your agent. If you're an all Apple user, there's iMessage, no token at all, it just reads your iMessages, but it's Mac only and you have to grant it permission to read your messages on your computer first, and it uses your personal iMessage account rather than a separate bot account. WhatsApp is possible, but Meta makes you jump through more hoops, so it's really only something I would do if you already have a business WhatsApp account set up with Meta already. The Telegram sequence end to end. So let me show you the Telegram bot setup from start to finish, because once you've seen it laid out, it's genuinely short and your agent does most of the work. 5 steps. I'll tell you which ones are yours and which the agent handles, because the terminal versus agent line matters here, as we pointed out earlier with Tiffany's GitHub issues. I have all of these steps laid out in a document called Telegram Channel Setup, which will of course be included in the Session 6 notes on the AI Starter repo. Let's go look at that now. Right, so here we have the document, Telegram Channel Setup, and the first thing I need to point out is that there are certain prerequisites. Bun, you will recall we had 2 versions of the hooks in our repo, and most of the people used the Python version rather than the TypeScript version, since we had Python installed and not Bun. Well, this time you'll need to download it using the curl command in the setup. Please note, this is a terminal command. You know the drill. Claude Code, of course, you'll have that running already. Third, you'll need to have the Telegram app downloaded on your phone. I know most of you already have done this. Finally, you'll need to install the plugin for Claude to get the channels functionality, again using the terminal commands in the guide down here. Once you have these prerequisites sorted, you go through the following 5 steps detailed in A through E of the guide. Step 1. Create the bot in BotFather. You go to the Telegram app, and once you're in the Telegram app, you find the BotFather and send something called a /newbot command, and then the BotFather will ask you 2 things. It'll ask you for a name and a username, and the username has to end in _bot, and the BotFather will send back a token, something along these sort of lines here. And then you copy that token, and then you'll take that back to your agent. So let me just show you what that looks like on my iPhone. If I bring up my iPhone screen here. So once you open Telegram, you're going to be looking for something called BotFather, and you use the search. If you search up here for BotFather, you'll find the BotFather. Then, as I said, you use the command /newbot, and then it will ask you for the name. I went through a few iterations before I found one that wasn't used, and I found Bob to Demo Bot, which I used as my username. Once you've done that, then it will send back a message, and will send you a code, something like this. I'm not showing it here because that, of course, is the code to my bot. So that's what we've done on BotFather. Once BotFather gives you that token, we move to step number 2, and at this stage we go back to our agent, not the terminal, and in our agent we'll use this command /telegram:configure, and then instead of this number here, of course, you're going to paste in your particular token, and you'll then tell your agent to set up the Telegram bot, and it's going to write a token into a particular file which is used by this channels feature from Claude Code. So your agent can do that particular step for you. Then in step 3, you have to launch a dedicated Claude Code session with the channel flag. So this channel flag is what activates the particular functionality on Claude Code. So I'm going to show you exactly how that works on my setup. So here I have a terminal session, cd project, cd bob. I need to use this Claude command with the channels feature as a flag. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste that here, and that opens a dedicated channel. Now, the important thing is that this is a channel that's going to be running in the background connected to your Telegram agent. You shouldn't be using this for your regular conversations. You'll need to open a separate Claude session for that. This is one that you just kind of keep in the background, and then when you're out and about on your phone and you're sending messages via Telegram, it's going to use this open session to link back to the Claude functionality. We have that set up. Now we need to text our bot to get the pairing code to use with your agent and pair to your Telegram account. So I'm going to come back here to my iPhone, and on my Bob demo bot, ignore these previous messages. Your agent won't have all these messages. You'll have a blank agent because this one is no longer paired, and I'm going to have to repair this from scratch. And you'll simply say something like, hello there. And as you can see, it's now sent me a pairing code, and I take that pairing code and I give that to my agent pair, and I need to give the very specific code 6CF9FF. This should be paired. Process the pairing request, and so our dedicated agent is going to set that all up for us. And there we go, paired. Say hi to Claude. Hello, who are you? And there we go. Hi, Gavin. I'm Bob, your personal AI assistant. I've got your vault loaded, and we now have a fully working Telegram session with our agent. Now, of course, I said that there was 5 steps. I'm going to take you to this last step, which I think is very important, because a Telegram bot is publicly addressable, and anyone who guesses the username can DM it. So, of course, you need to lock this down. So one very important step is to take this and take it back to your agent, and we need to lock it down with this command to make sure that only you are allowed to access this particular bot. And there we go, setting DM policy to allow list, and that way it will be locked down to just us, because of course we don't want other people accessing our Telegram agent because it's accessing things on our computer. So policy set to allow list. What this changes: new people can no longer pair by DMing the bot. Pairing requests are off. Only the one sender already on the allow list you can reach. To add anyone else, you'd use Telegram access allow sender ID, so you can actually add specific people if you want. And that's the 5 steps to set up your Telegram agent. Now, there is of course a catch, which I mentioned in a previous session, but wanted to cover in a bit more detail today. For your agent to answer a text while you're out, something has to be on and listening when you're not at your desk. This is the one bit of real infrastructure that you need, and it's cheaper than it sounds. 3 options. Cheapest first. 1. Just leave your laptop on. Generally fine to start. Sort the settings so it doesn't drop to sleep, and that should be done. Number 2. A Raspberry Pi. This is a very small computer, runs at about £60. Set up once, very little power, sits in a drawer or a shelf somewhere out of the way. I have one sitting on my desk in the study as we speak, and that's what runs the server we'll connect to in a few minutes. Number 3, a little cloud box. I have 2 of these cloud computers running, one on Amazon Web Services and another on a site called Hostinger, which cost me about £180 for 2 years, with a computer that has enough processing power, disk space and memory to comfortably run an agent in the cloud. That's the whole spectrum. You don't need a data center, you don't need to understand servers, you just need one machine that stays awake. Now for lens 3, the biggest shift coming isn't your agent reading the web, it's the web becoming readable by agents, and you can be on the providing side. All afternoon you've connected your agent to things, well, you've watched me do it on Bob. Now to flip it the other side, providing, and I've got one ready for you. Richard, last week you asked me for a Gavin-agent, one that had all the session notes in it. I built it this week, so let me plug into it right now. If I open a terminal screen, and I'm going to paste the following command, and I'm going to walk you through each one of these pieces just so that you know exactly what is happening here. In this first part, it says Claude MCP add, and that's basically tell my agent about a new connector. The next piece is this -- transport HTTP, and what that's saying is this server lives out on the internet. The next piece is AI training, and that is just a nickname so I can refer to it later. And then HTTPS aitraining.gavinslater.co.uk/MCP, and that is the actual server. That's my web server where I'm hosting this particular MCP server and hosting all of the detailed notes for you. And then the bit at the end, -- header authorization bearer with these digits. Well, that's the key that proves that you're actually allowed in. So I have made this key available to people on this course so they can access the AI training notes and get their agent to ask questions about it. And that's it. Literally, that is all there is to that command. Now, Tiffany, just one thing that I did promise. This is a command that goes in your terminal, not inside the Claude Code session. You could, of course, just take this token and tell your agent in a Claude session, go and look up the instructions which are on the AI starter repo and follow the instructions to set this up. And of course, your agent would be able to do that, but I just wanted to take you through the terminal version as well. So if I press enter, you can see added HTTP MCP server AI training. And so that looks like it's all working. I now need to go onto a Bob session. I'm going to type one command, which is /MCP, which tells me which MCP servers I'm connected to. And if we look here, there is nothing about AI training. And that's because you need to restart the session before this MCP server gets activated. Exit, resume that same session. And now if I say /MCP, there it is, AI training connected. So that all looks like it's working. So now we actually need to ask our agent something. Let's give it this question. Use the AI training tools. What did session 5 teach about hooks? So it knows we're asking about a specific tool that it's got access to, and we're asking a question about hooks. So let's let Bob access that server and see if I can find out what we said about hooks in session 5. Session 5 is clearly the hook session. Let me read the full notes. And there we have it. It's completed. The core message. Hooks are code, not magic. I do remember saying that. The 2 hooks shipped. Pre-compact flush. Session in summary. Okay. Looks like it's got all that information which we talked about in session 5 about hooks. And there you have it. Your own agent asking questions about this course from a server that I'm running. Now, notice that it just worked. No Google login, no setup, no proving who you are. Why is that? Because I built it to be shared, open to all of you with one key. That was my choice as the person providing it. Your Gmail needed a login because it's yours. My note server didn't because I chose to open it with a single API authorization key. And that's the real question of this whole hour. Not what you can consume, but what would you provide. And now to show you how unobvious that question is, here's one that you got no idea about, a thing called Fabric, and it's a big library of prompts, recipes for getting good outputs. You've never seen it, it just sits on my machine, useful to me, but I could put it behind a server tomorrow and your agent could reach into mine and pull the right pattern on demand. Let's take a look at exactly that, fabric.gavinslater.co.uk, and this is my Fabric library. So if I search for wisdom, I can see one of the prompts here is extract wisdom. This is a particular prompt that can be used to extract wisdom out of an article, a YouTube channel, or anything that you want. This, of course, is available to my agent because I'm already connected to this, but there's nothing stopping me turning this into an MCP server. And if I did that, then your agent could connect to this and use this library of prompts. So that's something that I might be doing in the very near future, and I'll let everybody know if and when I have that available. Now, let me show you something. If I come to the following website, artraining.gavinslater.co.uk. Now, this is the MCP server we just connected to. And notice what I'm saying here. This web page, this is an MCP server, not a website. There's nothing here for you to read. This page exists for agents, not eyeballs. If you've landed here in a browser, you're looking at the back of the stage. So this is just trying to make my point about the internet changing from web pages to MCP servers. So for 30 years, the deal was, here's my website, you come and read it. The next deal is, here's my MCP server. Your agent comes and asks it. Websites are built for eyeballs, MCP servers built for agents. As more of us hand things to agents, being agent readable becomes the new being online. What have you got? Because everyone in this room is sitting on something. The dietitian work, a nutrition server that a client's agent could consult. The bean counters, a server of rules for closing the books. Nathan, your exercise and PT program information for your client's agent to go and retrieve. Privacy protected, of course. Alison, a lawyer will definitely have information that your client's agent will want to ask about the compliance status. Instead of a website, a client visits an MCP server, the agent asks. It's a genuinely new way to put your expertise out there, and almost nobody is doing it properly yet. And here's the hopeful picture of where this goes. This time again from Daniel Miesler. Imagine you don't market yourself with a CV and a website anymore. You just broadcast what you're good at, and other people's agents come and find you. Someone needs a cat sitter for the weekend. Their agent puts word out, and your agent, knowing you love cats and you're free, pings you. Fancy it? 50 quid. Same for, can anyone do a quick compliance review? Anyone tutor GCSE maths? I play the violin. I'll come play at your kid's birthday. You stop being a job title on LinkedIn and start being your whole self reachable. And you get rewarded for the things that you're genuinely good at. That's the upside of all this. And your own little MCP server is the first brick of building it. And Maxim's point from earlier, don't just build because you can. Build things that actually adds value. The question isn't, Could I expose this? Is this worth somebody's agent reaching to? One last real thing about providing: who gets to read it? You felt this live a minute ago. My notes server let you in with one shared key. That was a choice and a spectrum. Some things you want fully open, no key at all. Everyone's agent can ask. A public reference, your published work, a price list, something you want restricted, a shared key to hand to clients or a cohort like today, and some stays private just for you. Providing isn't all or nothing. The skill is choosing the right door for each thing. So when you think about your own server this week, think about who you would let in. Right. Homework in priority order. 1. Use the note server. You've connected. Now actually lean on it this week as you go back over things. Recipe and the token, of course, will be in the written notes on the AI starter repo. Number 2, set up a way to reach your agent from your phone. Telegram for most of you, iMessage if you're all Apple. Recipe again in the notes. Start it read only and then let it tell you things before it does things. Number 3, and this is the big one, sketch your MCP server. 1 paragraph. What data or expertise have you got that somebody else's agent would want? What would it expose? And who would you open it to? Bring it next week and channel Maxim, the thing that adds value, not just the thing that's possible. Number 4, if you still owe me a custom skill, this is the week. And 5, keep a gaps log. Anything that breaks or confuses, that will drive the open for next week. Anything that breaks, email me, subject line, session 6 issue, and a one-liner. So what's next? Next week is the power user session. I'm still firming up, but the plan is sub-agents, your agent spinning up its own helpers, schedule jobs so it works for you on a timer, and a proper deep dive on some Claude code commands that make all of this smoother. Bring your What's my MCP server sketch. The phase 3 is now done. Your agent reaches the world. You reach from anywhere, and you've started thinking about what you'd offer the world in return. From this moment on, it doesn't just get better at being you every week. It's plugged into your actual life. See you all next Friday.